All right, great. Good afternoon, everybody. Tony, can you please confirm you can hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Fantastic, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Segun Adeniyi. I am Chief Digital Officer for Wema Bank in Nigeria. And part of my responsibilities are around digitizing the product offerings that we have and driving the bank as it leapfrogs from a traditional bank to a global standard digital bank. Our conversations today, which before I move forward with, I must thank you for making time to discuss with us on a Sunday afternoon like this, is going to be centered around something very simple, and it's about making property acquisition in Nigeria easy for many of our Nigerians that live in the diaspora. The conversation will be driven by myself and my colleague, Dr. Ifebogun. Dr. will run through a number of slides right after I hand the microphone to him. And then after that, myself, himself, and a few of our other colleagues will be available for questions and answers to you all. And that session will be facilitated by another of our colleagues, Mrs. Toyi Peters. At this junction, I would simply call out a number of rules for today's session, and they're simply around one, please indulge in us and make sure that you raise your hands if you want to speak, and the moderator will call you out and allow you to unmute your microphone. Second is to kindly keep your questions brief. There will be email addresses and telephone. There'll be an opportunity to circulate email addresses and telephone numbers, which we can use to take more detailed questions and well, more detailed and specific questions. And thirdly, I promise you the session, so it's 4:07 in Nigeria, in the UK. The plan is this session will be a maximum 90 minutes, and we will make sure that we stick to that time. Dotun, if you are comfortable now, you may put your slides in slide mode and start the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Segun, for the introduction. This is Wema Bank, right here in UK. So today we've come to share with you some of our thoughts around how you can get mortgages, even though you are staying in the UK. We'll be running you through some slides. Like Segun said, I'm the divisional head of retail bank in Wema Bank, and I have the pleasure of bringing this to you from the stable of Wema Bank, the owner of ALAT. From our perspective, the discussion will go through this agenda. We'll introduce the market to you, give you a few tips of what we think about it around the home front and how we see we can be part of it for you from this point of view. We'll let you into the challenges and some of those things that we have put together as a bank in order for us to mitigate all these challenges. We'll quickly go into this so that we can have the best use of time. And in the course of this discussion, we also have the benefit of listening to one of the partners who is also well-grounded in the development space within Nigeria. So quickly, from the point of view of the introduction, you can see, you all know that the deficit in the home side, in the homeowners' position is huge, particularly back home. That deficit keeps increasing because of the population, ever-increasing population, and the fact that we continuously have rural-urban migration from the rural to the few urban environments we have in the home country. And that also gives us a need for us to intervene as an organization, as an institution. And from the perspective of the diasporan who has been out of the country for a while, this also gives a little more need for intervention from our side. And that is why we have thought about this as a need for you. Now, if you're in diaspora, the problems are also quite better imagined from point of view of how do we intervene and how do we come into this space so that you can have beneficial use of your funds and also have the rest of mind around what is happening back at home. Please confirm that you can see my slides.
Yes, Dr. we can.
Okay, thank you. So from the real estate market in Nigeria, having slumped in 2022 because of the obvious thing, this has started to grow in 2021. From the growth in 2021, we can also see the projections for the foreseeable years. In the Q3 of 2021, the sector actually expanded. However, the deficit remains and the growing population has not abated. With this growing population also is the issue of rural-urban migration, low income levels, low access to mortgages, and all whatnot. And the gap in housing needs becomes a huge one, both for us back home and for you who are willing to have some measure of investment in this area. And what we have seen around the challenges as listed, there's the issue of high cost of property development, about the inflation, you know about the need for us to move around, the logistic issues around there. The land use regulation back home is also not an interesting one for people who have tried to venture into this entire game. And of course, this funding gap for anyone who is a low to middle income and even at high income level from the point of view of being able to have value for money is also there. The consistent devaluation of the Naira and the inflation rate also pose some challenges to everyone. And of course, the menace of Omonile. Even though all of us are Omonile, but there are more Omoniles than some of us when the issue of property development starts back home. For the benefits of the diasporans, we have also looked at some of the issues that we need to contend with. Okay, so there's the need for us to provide the convenient and private accommodation when you come home. We know that you pride your privacy, and you also want to ensure that that is served across every location that you find yourselves, be it in UK or back home in Nigeria, Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, and whatnot. Of course, there's also the need for you to put some funds into investment that are value appreciating. The investment must yield. And when you look at all the options that you have back home, the monetary side of it have plateaued, and the fact that you also need to look at lasting investments that you can't leave behind for generations to come. The need for us to also create additional income is also there. The streams of income can also be served from point of view of having investments and assets back home and wherever you intend to also have such. For the property also being used as collateral, there's the need for us to also ensure that you have investment that can be put as securities and also used in the case of need for securitization of any other investments. The leverage on continued depreciation of the Naira is also key at this point in time. We are not also, praying for the Naira to get better, to get worse, but the fact remains that as we sit today, £1 at 700, 800 Naira is an opportunity for you to use your funds in another environment that will enable you to have the better yield and return for your money. From the perspective of the home ownership journey in Nigeria, we also see some trends that we feel is worth sharing with you. For instance, saving for outright purchase of completed house, which was the old order, is no longer the same. In order for us to be able to do some form of investment, we used to know that we would save. But as you save, inflation catches up on it, and inflation devalues the savings worth. And that also calls for some level of intervention, which the banks and Wema Bank in particular are positioned to fill. Land purchase and construction has so many of routes that, it's better imagined from the point of view of the Omonile syndrome. How do you also ensure that you have your interests properly being catered to? How do you ensure that you have the support structure to see you through this entire game of starting and fulfilling that dream? How do you ensure that at the end of the day, you have quality investment in terms of the property that you have developed? Again, there is the issue around who does this for you? How do you sit in the UK and have a worthwhile developmental process that you can be proud of? Who are the consortium of developers in this, the architects, the builder, and all this stuff? And if all these are things that continuously bothers you, then this entire journey becomes a pipe dream. So you keep dreaming about having this home at home, you keep dreaming about having this property, yet this dream becomes unsatisfied and unrealized. And with that comes the need for us to look at it from point of view of intervention and see how we can help you bridge the gap and make this happen. So from the financing perspective, we understand that this explanations has thrown up the issue of how do you ensure that you have local banking relationship? How do you ensure that that local banking relationship translates into credit history for you? You probably have been away for so long and you don't have any banking account. We are telling you that you can actually open an account where you are right now through our digital platform ALAT, and also start to have transactions and bank with us and build credit history if you so wish, by also subscribing to some of our assets creation facilities that we have. Inadequate knowledge of available financing is also an issue. You may perhaps not know about all the things that we can do locally while you are here, because you also don't know whether you can actually have that relationship across the borders. We're saying that that is possible. And by the time we run through all this, you also be rest assured that your flow of income into the country can be made easy. And with that, you can also properly situate this use of funds and also begin to build assets that can serve as collateral in Nigeria, or use the asset in your home country where you reside to make the securitization possible for a Nigerian asset that you wish to invest in. The understanding of the credit facility, the dynamics and requirements are also some of those things that we would use this opportunity to make easy and seamless. In walking you through this, we will be looking at what you need to do to position yourself to be able to enjoy credit facilities, even though you are abroad, what we need to support you by as you stay in your comfort in the country of residence, and all the other parties that can help us to navigate all this and ensure that you have that trust in local banking services while you stay in UK. So for Women Bank, we will be offering you this suite of supports, and we would also ensure that you are able to turn this entire scenario into a beneficial relationship, such that at any point in time, you'll be a referral point for the bank in everything you do. So we will be offering you personalized banking and advisory services. We have a 24/7 access to dedicated officers who will take you through and also ensure that you are properly served. For every transactional activities you have, we have dedicated call center that can help you to streamline and make easy everything that you need to know, and also point you to the right persons to give you the necessary support and services that you need. For the bank, we also would enable you to create the use of your asset in your home country for the positioning of acquisition in Nigeria. So you can creatively leverage your equity on assets in UK in order for you to position to buy or acquire asset back home. The mortgage financing itself would also focus you on choice areas within the locality. It will also require that you are able to put 30% equity contribution in this acquisition, so that we will be having a loan to value of 30 to 70 in this case. And we can do this for as long as 10 years with the local currency repayment, which means you will continue to have benefits of the exchange situation, even though we also expect that you will retain your foreign currency within our pool, because we can actually have you run your GBP account, your Naira account side by side on our ALAT platform. If you go to alat.ng as we speak, you can create both Naira, GBP, dollar, and euro accounts. So you have benefits of your foreign currency, and you also have the ability to translate it into Naira and meet your obligations in Naira. Of course, the use of the choice of property is also flexible, is in your hands. You will have access to some developers that we can trust. You will also be able to leverage some of those people that you have trusted in the past, and also the locations and the entire ecosystem within your sphere of influence, and also enable us to take a position jointly on whether we can have a go or no go decision around the property. And by extension, the legal support and services that we also will be providing in UK will also help you, guide you through this entire process. What we're saying is that we have a suite of activities and offerings that can put your mind at rest in order for you to deal with us, and also ensure that locally you have the comfort of that investment. And while you stay abroad, you also have that measure of confidence that everything is going on well. For this to happen, there will be some requirements naturally. Some of those are the ones they are already used to. We will need to have a favorable credit score from approved agencies in your country of residence, Equifax, the Experian, and the FICOs of this world. We would also need to have a proof of income with the minimum of 6 months to see how your capacity and capability to meet your obligations is properly stated in your income books. We mentioned 30% equity contribution. That means we would need to make 30% at the minimum. And you can also build that 30% within our offering on ALAT, whereby you can actually put your funds aside in goals and earn interest on it over a period as you prepare yourself for the ultimate aim. The tax returns is also essential. The taxman is also always in the picture. While we are doing this for you in the diaspora, we also ensure that you're able to position yourself for appropriate tax incidents and manage your tax approaches in the local country of build. Of course, we need to know you. Some information around your CV, your background and stuff will also be necessary. The offer of sale of the property locally will also be part of the documentation. And of course, you would naturally request for the facility and also ensure that we have both good views of what the values are through the valuation, both views of what the quality assessment is through the necessary regulatory agencies, and be rest assured that everything will go well. And when you have the opportunity to have professional organizations recommending you, it adds to the PIP on your scorecard and also helps us in the decision-making process. So by and large, this is the brief I have at this point in time. And I believe with this, there will be many questions to be dealt. And we are assuring you that we have enough people within this entire discussion that can also serve that purpose. Permit me to also say that we have one of the developers we work with back home in this meeting. At a point in time during the meeting, we may have to come up and also speak to you and possibly show you some of the things on ground as we speak, so that you can also have some good view of what this entire play is all about. So Shegun, I hope I've done justice within the time allotted. We can move to question. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Toyi, I would like to yield to you to moderate the questions and answers. Myself and Dr. will have our videos on and stay available to start providing answers. So maybe take 3 questions per batch and then give us a chance. Toyi, are you audible? Okay, in that case, I'll take that. I'll step into those shoes. I see your hand, Okoyemi Oduwole. You may unmute yourself to speak. Okoyemi, you're on mute if you are speaking. Okay, Okoyemi, if you're speaking, you're on mute. Okay, can we take Tili Oyeti, please?
Hi, Shegun.
Yes.
Thank you very much for that. Obviously, during the presentation, there was discussion in relation to prospective developers. And I just wanted to know whether or not, in terms of sourcing property, is it a case of the mortgages have to be allocated to particular properties, or can individuals actually source for their own properties themselves and then apply for mortgage?
Okay, I'll take that. I think Okoyemi, I'm asking you to unmute now, so you should be able to unmute.
Yes, thank you. I've just been able to do that now. Can I ask my question, or do you want to take the...
No, please ask your question. We will take
okay, thank you.
2 more questions after today.
Okay, I'm going to quickly wrap this, make this quick. Firstly, the securitization of the property itself, is it the property that one is looking to buy in Nigeria, or what? There has to be another property one has to use as a security? Secondly, in terms of the repayment, will the repayment be in Naira, or it has to be in GBP? If it has to be in Naira, and I decide to have both my GBP and NGN accounts with ALAT, considering the fact my income will be in GBP, at what rate? Is it going to be the official rate? I'm going to be changing my money to the NGN account with ALAT, or is it going to be the parallel market rate? And lastly, in terms of location, I know because I've spoken to quite a number of your competitors in the past, and they kept saying that, oh, they only deal with properties in Lagos and Abuja alone. What is your scope in terms of, location? And what is your prevailing interest rate? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tilly. Sorry, Okwayemi, and I'll take Bemi Akintoye.
Okay, hello there. Thanks for the presentation. I just wonder, do you guys have any documentary evidence around the market in Nigeria from an investor's perspective? So is there a government program, for instance, around, build, around the way the demography of Nigeria is moving, and what can an investor hope to get, by way of a return, because it's not everybody who's going to be buying from a pure, domestic use proposition.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Do you want to step in, or are you comfortable for me to start providing some responses? Okay, thank you very much. I think I will start with Tilly's question. The short answer to your question around whether this applies to specific properties or any properties, the short answer is no, it is not for specific properties. So it is very possible for you to find your own property. We will do an assessment similar to the way that your property purchase or an intended property in the UK is valued by an independent assessor. We will do that on the property in Nigeria, relates back to you on the valuation, and then, based on an alignment between yourself, the buyer, and the seller, we will then consider that for a mortgage independently. So we do not, we're not selling this in conjunction with specific developers. We will accommodate partnerships with developers. I think Dotun mentioned that, but the summary of this is a product that is being developed to be independent of, specific developers. I hope that speaks to your question clearly, Tilly. Okwayemi, on the question around securitization, I think the simple answer is two things. So by nature of the fact that this is a lending to procure a property, that property itself is one level of security. But there's a bigger challenge. If you think about it, your flows, your income flows, your banking history and relationship is not in Nigeria, it is in the UK. So we will be looking for some level of securitization based on that residency. So what we're saying is, by nature of a lending product, we will securitize against the property in Nigeria. By nature of you not being non-resident, we will leverage on your equity on a UK property or your equity as a banked person in Nigeria to give some comfort for that lending. But the expectation on your foreign property, is that the securitization will not be higher than the loan amounts that you have on your Nigerian property. I hope that speaks to your question, Okwayemi. Repayment currency is in Naira, which gives you the direct benefit of the devaluation, continued devaluation of the Naira, and also gives you a bit of flexibility around how you source the funds. Property location, in all absolute candor, we are primarily enthused about properties in mainland Nigeria, so Port Harcourt, Abuja, Lagos, but on a case-by-case basis, we may make exceptions. So it depends on the opportunities that you have, and we will do an assessment and some valuation accordingly. Dotun, you will guide me on interest rates, but my understanding is this is controlled by Nigerian government. It is generally between 17 and 20%. We have very little control over that, but I think primarily for diaspora residents, there are so many upsides that come from the currency continued devaluation that you do not, the interest rates, you will always get that based on, the direction the Naira has continued to go in the last 40 years. And to your final question around market data, I think, post this engagement, we may be able to share some information with you, but I'll speak with absolute candor. We are a bank, we don't have, and we do have a dedicated desk around real estate and property, but I will ask that whatever information or market data we share with you, you do your own independent assessment accordingly.
Okay, CDO, we have a couple of questions in the chat box.
Okay.
Just hold on, Tony. Just
Okay.
on the market information as well, there are independent information within the space. We have the PwC of this world, the KPMG. They regularly churn out documents and evidences on the property investment market, and also helps investors in navigating this landmine. So please feel free to also subscribe to such. And when we have such, we also post it to you through our various channels for you to also get acquainted with what's happening back home. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, DH. So we have a question from Diron Komolafe. He said, you mentioned UK. Are you starting with the UK alone? And someone also asked a similar question. Is this just for residents in UK?
I attempt to answer that very clearly. This is not only UK. What we are attempting to do today is, one, build an inventory of interested parties, to identify a number of those parties to kick this off with as an experiment. And thirdly, this experiment is being targeted for UK and US residents because we feel that the volume of Nigerians in those two countries are huge, and we have some familiarity with the credit system, and that gives us a bit of confidence to take the risk. Sorry, Toyi, what's the next question?
Okay, from Remy Omotoye. So Remy asks, what if one is self-employed in UK, especially contractors? Will this group of people be considered too?
Short answer, they will be considered. The criteria would be based on your credit records at Xperia or Equifax. And if you are a property owner with equity in the UK. If you're not a property owner, it will be a different stream, and that stream would be encouraging you to build a banking history with us in Nigeria, the same way you would in the UK until you get onto the credit register. Build a banking relationship with us in Nigeria, and then we will reassess after the first 6 months.
Okay, I'll leave the chat box now. We have a hand raised from Emil Shotire. Emil, can you please speak? Host, can you please unmute Emil so he can ask his question?
I've just unmuted.
Okay, yes, okay.
Yeah, hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I was just going to check if I have a property that I'm already building in Nigeria, is it possible to have access to your mortgage to continue the construction?
Let me take that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Emil, thank you for that. So
yeah,
two issues will be upmost on our mind. Number one, the location. That location will help us to determine the extent of the rating that we would be putting on your request in terms of the local credits. And by so doing, you also need to also give us some level of comfort about your location or your status in the country of residence at this point in time, because that also speaks to the collateral structure that we'll be putting across for you and your ability to meet your obligations. So if, for instance, in UK, you can actually have your equity in the existing property you have back home, as in UK, we can now take that as part of the security structure for the property in Nigeria. But the preferred is for us to have it in locations where we are comfortable with in terms of how well the market moves locally, how easy we can securitize the property, and how easy you can have beneficial use of that property in case of you want to live there or you want to make it into an investment property. Thank you.
Okay. If I wish to continue having this discussion with you, who do I need to contact?
Please see the screen. The screen. You can drop your emails on Diaspora Banking at Wema Bank, and of course, we give you contact at the end of the presentations.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Emil.
I'll
go back to the chat box. We have a question from Okpeyemi. He said, what FX rate will be taken to repay if I have both the pounds and Naira accounts? What FX rate will be taken to repay?
Let's take more questions.
Okay.
So that we can, yeah.
All right. That is noted. Then we have another question from Wali Balogun. Hi, Dotun. How does this apply to American residents? Is the interest rate fixed? Also, does it apply to existing properties or only properties to new, or only applies to new developments? And then from Obafemi, he said, please, let's not leave out Canada. And from Omar, are there any reporting requirements to the UK or foreign regulators to report on asset holding back home in Nigeria? Being based in UK, we're expected to report capital gains of foreign interest earnings. And from Emmanuel, would you still need a securitization in the UK if my LTV for a property I'm buying in Nigeria was as low as 50%? And from Abolaji Idowu, from my understanding, we need to put down 30% of the equity. Why is there an additional need to securitize this asset with a UK equity? And I think I'll take this from Ahmed as well.
Hold on, Tony, please, can you mute? Someone is on the platform still speaking. Maybe let's quickly take this, Tony. I think Okpe asked about FX rates, and we told you initially that you will have the benefit of dealing in your foreign currency to pay in Naira. We want you to retain patronage with us on both sides of the foreign currency and Naira. However, we give you the latitude to deal in that at the open rate, so to speak. While we do this, we also expect that in the course of the relationship, you continue to maintain that pool of funds within our system. For the question around, is this only in UK? We've said we're starting with UK. We would be in US, Canada is included, and the whole idea is to be with every Nigerian in diaspora and deal with them within the capacity that they have where they live right now, subject to the interest they want to serve in the Nigerian market. Is the interest rate fixed? Interest rate is floating. That's the ruling regulatory approach to this. However, we expect that within the course of this type of relationship, you would have the good records to quickly meet your obligations and arrest whatever interest fluctuations that could be, while also taking advantage of the FX fluctuations, which is in your favor at this point in time. Reporting to the UK on capital gains, we would have our partner in UK to advise on that. We've talked about it around the tax obligations and all. We also know that we need to help ensure that you do not fall into that web of regulatory infractions, but we have a partner who is based in UK at this point in time to help us advise on that and also help us navigate the entire land mile that could come across. For the securitization in UK, yes, the securitization in UK helps us to, do the risking appropriately, is preferred. However, this also comes into play where the nature of property back home and the value of the property is in such a situation where we do not have the required collateral coverage. Again, if you're buying outright, it becomes easy, but if you have to take time to build, then the emphasis on the securitization would naturally call for us to put some level of comfort in the UK property over the period, because the property locally that is also going through some development will not put us in good stead at that point in time. And to the question of 30% equity contribution, there's always the need for us to have a collateral coverage of not less than 150% on the property. So if you're buying a property that puts the collateral coverage below 150, obviously we'll need to have that form of securitization. However, all this can also be looked at on case-by-case basis as we go. The most important thing at this point in time is to ensure that you have beneficial use, you have comfort in the entire process, and also ensure that at the end of the day, both parties can have mutually beneficial stories to tell in the process of ensuring that you have comfort in what you deal in and how you deal in it through a bank and with your stakeholders across the developmental stages. Thank you.
Okay, back to the chat box. We have a question from Ahmed Otuba. He says, what does building a local credit history in Nigeria entail, please? And from Adebayo, he says, if the individual is not a property owner in the UK, are you saying the application will not be considered? And Oluseyi Oluboba is asking for more details, while Opeyemi Oduwale is also still asking a question about the FX rate. Is it going to be the parallel rate or the official bank rate? And from Yemi.
Toyin, please let me, if you don't mind, Toyin.
Okay,
so
all right.
We don't
all
lose
right,
Okay, so let me take Ahmed's question. Building a local credit history in Nigeria primarily starts from having a bank account and having transactions go through that bank account to a point where, having transactions go through that bank account to a point where the bank can put a value to your transaction volume. What I'm trying to say is for you to get a loan in Nigeria for example, about 100 million, it would be important to see that you are doing revenues around that amount. The second thing is also having a footprint in the credit register. This is a new or a growing concept in Nigeria today, but it starts from a bank account, some transactions at the point where as part of those transactions, there may be some opportunities to take a short-term loan, of which there are a lot of digital platforms offering that in Nigeria today. Because what you are trying to do is build a footprint, you don't need to take those loans for a long time. Take a short-term loan, have the footprint, pay back the loan. That's essentially what it entails. And I believe this is the same process for many of you that live in diaspora today. To the question around if this individual is not a property owner in the UK, simple answer is what I've just spoken to. We would expect you to have at least a banking footprint in Nigeria, which just means we may not be able to deal with your application in the immediate term. We will onboard you onto the banking system. We may ask that your deposits be higher than the preferred 30%. But the simple answer is the application will be considered, but it's a different journey that it goes on. I have noted the email address for Mr. Oluseyi or Oluseyi Oluboba, and we will share some further details. And to the question around the FX rates, I think the simple answer on that is, as a bank in Nigeria, if you were to pay us the foreign exchange equivalent, we are obliged to work with you on the parallel, on the official rate. However, for this transaction, we believe that you can have your own personal arrangements to get your Forex exchanged at the parallel market rate, or you can work with some of our partners to do that and then just remit the Naira equivalent to us in Nigeria for the mortgage. Toyin, you can drive on with the next questions.
Okay, I'll leave the chat box now and take the hands raised. Opeyemi Oduwole, I don't know if your question has been answered. I can still see your hand up, so I can pass to the next person. Has your question been answered? Host, can you please unmute Opeyemi? Let me be sure his question has been answered. That was the last question you responded to.
Yeah, sorry, I already chatted that you can move on. I was trying to figure out how to remove the.
Okay, thank you, Opeyemi.
Thank you.
All right, Remy Akinbolu, let's have your question.
Hi. Thanks again, Segun, for putting this together. It's very informative. So my only question is around, will this service still be available if I don't have an account with your bank?
Okay, thank you, Remy. Shola Odumosu, can we have your question?
Yeah, okay, thank you. My question is this. You've answered part of it, which is I was going to ask if I could pay more than the 30% of the deposit. And my other question is, can I choose to pay off before the 10 years required? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Emmanuel Agbedeyi, let's have your question, please.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
My question is regarding the interest rate. Is the interest rate, is it going to fluctuate based on the equity contribution? Because normally over here, the higher your equity contribution, the lower the interest rate. That is number one. Number two, I'm not sure if anyone is confirmed already the interest rate that is paid on mortgage that's going to be taken. And lastly, if you're trying to take a security from the UK, if the UK property is already mortgaged with a lender here, how are you going to go about that process without the lender here actually, for some time they may not be willing to actually share that, let me say, property as part of the discussion with you, even if you're not a UK bank. So how are you going to work that out? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Sidio,
can I take?
Now?
Okay. Please answer before we go on, so we don't lose time.
All right, thank you, Toyin, and thank you for the questions, Remy. And regards the question on different bank, the simple answer is yes, we will consider you because you do have a footprint. But beyond that, we will encourage you to move your transactions to us. We're doing this not just for the mortgage, but it's to build a full end-to-end financial relationship with you. So it's not a showstopper, and I'm very deliberate with my words around what we will encourage you to. The question around, can you do higher equity? Of course, yes. What we have shown you today are sort of the bare minimum options. And what that means as well, let me try to speak to your third question around interest rate versus equity contribution. Simple answer is yes. There will be a consideration for the equity and the loan proportion of the of the acquisition as part of as how the interest rate is being proposed. And your second question about early repayments, yes, you can repay early. Mortgage rules in Nigeria, I think the longest that they can be scoped out, unlike the UK, which is 25 years, is 10 years. And but there is an option for early repayment, so it's not a bondage. And then to the last question around, the chances of being able to have a second charge on your property in the UK, for example, where the first charge is made by your mortgage lender. Our understanding today is that that most mortgage lenders are not, what's the word, opposed to having a second charge so far as their exposure amount is covered. And it is in this regard that our preference or our expectation will be you do have the equity on your property to cover that. My understanding, now this is speaking personal, my understanding is you may need to notify your existing lender before you put that second charge on the property. But like I spoke earlier, this is our first attempt to launch this. I expect that there will be some of these things that we learn together as we try and do a proof of concept on this. I think, Tony, I've spoken to all the current questions.
Yes, you have. How many more questions do I take? I still have a couple of questions in the chat box and 2 hands raised.
I think let's carry on, Toyi. Okay. We've got another half hour for the slots. Okay. Yeah, 38 minutes for the slots. Let's take a decision maybe in 20 minutes.
Okay, so I'll take 3 questions from the chat box now. From Yemi, if I have a property in Nigeria, can we use that for securitization instead of my property in the UK?
Okay, do you want to take a couple of questions?
Yes, and then from Diron Komolafe, what about construction mortgage for individuals who love to build their spec? And then from Babatunde Akintoye, will the credit history from Experian and Equifax be used solely to grant mortgages? How is the interest rate determined? And I think let me just add this 4th one from Ebi Animadu. Hi, good afternoon, guys. Please, I would like to ask, for us that have ongoing mortgages in the UK and I have property I want to buy back home, can I still have access to finance from your bank if I have a good credit score with Experian? I'll stop here.
Okay, let me attempt to speak to those. So if I have a property in Nigeria, can I use that for securitization? Short answer is yes, but I think there will be some extra assessments that our credit risk guys will have to do. So if that is what you prefer to do, I think, my short answer is we're comfortable to start the conversation and to look into that. With regards to construction mortgage for people who love to build to their spec, I think that will be a different product. We would see that as some sort of loan outside the mortgage scheme. But again, the big difference around that may be the length of payment. The duration of the loan. But again, I think, it's very difficult to fully productize this sort of offering without allowing for external considerations like this. So again, trying to give a short answer to you, this product we are speaking about is not intended for construction mortgage, but if that is your desire, then we would be happy to engage on a conversation around that. The next question around, will the credit history be solely used to grant mortgages? The short answer is no. It's a number of things, but the credit history is important for us because you not having a financial history in Nigeria, credit history in your country of residence is the first thing that tells us about your eligibility for credit in your country of residence, and that gives us a bit of confidence to take a risk, in Nigeria. And the interest rate, how it is determined. I'll be candid, I can't speak in detail to how it is determined. What I can speak to is the rates are between 17 and 20%. They are guided solely by the Central Bank of Nigeria. And of course, there will be some markup on our side, but that's very nominal. And we take into consideration a number of factors. So some of those factors are your credit history in your country of residence, the proportion of cash equity that you bring to the the transaction, what your earning capacity is, and all of that. But the general range is between 17 and 20%. Toyin, I think there's one more question.
That's the credit score from Ebi and Nimadi.
Yes, so for those that have an ongoing mortgage and have property they want to buy back home. Yes, this is for people like you, Ebi. This is for people that have, you know, property in the UK or the US at this stage. There are plans to expand beyond those two countries, but this is for people that have property in those countries and want to acquire property in Nigeria and have good credit score, have some equity that they can contribute. Yeah, I think that answers the question.
Okay, I think we missed the question from Babatunde Akitoye. Will the credit history from Experian and Equifax be solely used to grant mortgages?
Okay, I thought I spoke to that. Short answer is no, it will not. It will be a combination of the credit history, your equity contribution, and a level of affordability check that is being made on you based on your outgoing expenditure in your country of residence and the income that you make available to us. And there may be some other information. I think Dotun had a slide on some of the basic requirements that speak to that. But the short answer is it's not solely Experian and Equifax.
Okay, thank you.
Let me come in here. For the question of the early payoff, the last part of it is the fact that we will not penalize you for paying off earlier than 10 years if you so choose. Then there's also a question of, can it be more than 10 years because of age and all? At this point in time, we are taking the 10-year leg into the entire discussion. But of course, by the time we get acquainted with each individual and look at that length of time in service and stuff, we would be able to consider that as we go. But please take the 10 years as the in leg right now, and also rest assured that we will be flexible in dealing with peculiarities. There was also another question on the chat group that talks about off-plan. The off-plan question really has to do with what involvement with the developer is like and what level of reliance we can place on that. If you have existing off-plan mortgages or off-plan development, we will need to look at that exclusively and also deal with it to the extent of the credit risk that we are able to accommodate within that. One important thing in this particular discussion is around the fact that you must be comfortable with every stakeholder within the game. And that is also uppermost in our minds at this point in time. Thank you.
All right, thank you, DH. I'll go back to the hands raised. Gbemi Akintoye, can you please speak on? Let's hear your question. Gbemi Akintoye.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me. I probably just want to pick on, I think it was Dotun who made the point earlier, and I hope I haven't confused the issue. But my understanding is Wema Bank is going to have some sort of 150% coverage. So the way I understand that is if I put 30% down, the remaining 70% which Wema Bank advances takes us to buying the property, but the right to the property will remain with Wema Bank. But at the same time, they're looking for another 50% security potentially on my UK property. Did I sort of get that structure correctly? That's the first part of my question.
Let me take this because it's quite technical. So by virtue of the 70% equity in it, you have a almost 150% coverage immediately. So that gives us 142% on that, right? So then the next leg is around securitizing it. So that is the value to the property itself. That's the coverage. Now, for the securitization, what we're saying is that the first and the preferred one will be on the UK leg if we don't have adequacy on the Nigerian leg. So take, for instance, if you have the release on your UK property that gives you full coverage and all, then this the need for additional may not be necessary. It now depends on the value of the property you are buying back home. But short answer, with 70% equity, 70% lending on the value in Nigeria, you already have about 142 thereabouts. So that will be the first and the primary view around that.
Okay, so if I, for instance, whilst the LTV is 30%, if I put down, say, 35%, then I should have easily coverage of up to 150% for you guys, on the assumption that 30% LTV plus your 70% lending takes me to 142%.
Yes.
I think you will probably find there will be less appetite. You're going to lose potentially more customers the more you're trying to get them to put down security on an offshore property, i.e. a UK property. So I just wondered again if you've baked that into your calculations, because then the return we're looking for in Nigeria has got to be significantly high to make us take that kind of, you know, investment risk as well.
Very apt, Benga. And what that now takes us to is the issue of how we now take the peculiarity of each transaction. So we take that as the generic, but of course we can have specific ways to deal with it. I think the primary thing we can take back is the fact that as much as practicable, you must have equity in the entire game. And when that is sufficient for the local side of the market, that will enable us to move ahead. Where that is not sufficient, then we would naturally look at that. Again, the other side to it is around the local arrangement around securitization. It's not a stroll in the park. And you also know that the type of the property, the location of the property, and the value, quality, and all that will come into play. However, we can take it for the benefit of this discussion that with adequate equity and given the coverage on the local property, yes, we can start to deal. And when there's need for more, of course, we'll take it on a case-by-case basis. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Austin, can we please have your question? Austin Odegbami.
Yes, my question is about an agricultural loan. If I have farmland and I want to go into mechanized farming, what support do I get from the bank?
Okay, Mr. Austin, we would have to engage our agri desk for you in order for this particular question to be dealt. We have an agri desk that specializes in agri loan and the likes, and we would mention you to the team. Please give us your details so that we can get the team within the agri desk to engage you. Thank you.
Thank you. It's Austin Odegbami at yahoo.com. No space.
No space.
Full name at yahoo.com.
Okay, great.
I have an account. If you just, I'm on the system, you should see. It's Austin Odegbami, no space, at yahoo.com.
Okay, noted.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Austin. Thank you, DH. I'll quickly scan through the chat box because I see that some of the questions have been earlier responded to. Ebi is asking, what's the number of years for repayment? I think that's maximum of 10 years. Babatunde Akitoye also asked, what is the maximum loan tenure of the same 10 years? And he has a second part to that question. And how do you intend to register a security on my property, which is already encumbered by a foreign mortgage? DH and CDO, can you note that question? From Diro Komolafe, we have a question as well. What is the amortization period? And can it be paid off faster without penalty? I think this has also been answered. You can pay off faster than the registered tenor for that loan. From Omar, the last caller made a very valid point. How are you going to securitize my UK property if it's still under a UK lender ownership? That's mortgage. Are you going to reach out to the mortgage provider? How will that be possible if the property is not owned by me? That understanding of second charge is not very correct. I think we'll take that question. Then from Emil, He said, can I also please ask why your maximum mortgage tenure is 10 years? I think that has also been responded to. This can be looked into on a case-by-case basis. From Emmanuel Agbedeyi, the question on the interest rate to be charged has still not been answered. Please confirm the rate or a range of the interest rate to be charged on the mortgage. That's from Emmanuel Agbedeyi. I think it's a new question. From Babatunde Akintoye, is this product available for off-plan properties in Nigeria? From Vincent, hi all. What is the position of WEMA on the NHF product? I think there's also a new question. Then from Sahid Adeshino, hi, apart from credit history, did you consider buyers' regular income and expenditure? I think this has also been mentioned. Apart from your credit history, your income and expenditure will also need to be factored in to determine your cash flow and see what your income can accommodate for repayment. From Emil, in addition to the above, and probably because it's a new thing in Nigeria, why is it that the minimum deposit is available on your mortgage facility? Why is it that the minimum deposit available on your mortgage facility is 30%? Deposits in the UK, for example, go as low as 5% for first-time buyers. DHCDO, I don't know if I can take a pause here.
Yes, you can. I think, Toyin, the real question is, what are the open ones? Can you guide on those?
Okay, let me quickly take
I think a number of them have been answered.
Have been answered, yes. Maximum loan tenure answered. Maximum tenure answered. Okay, the question from Emmanuel, he said the question on the interest rate to be charged has still not been answered. Please confirm the rate or a range of interest rates.
I think that's what the range is 17 to 20%.
17 to 20.
Okay. And you may recall, you'd be aware these are not off-the-shelf products, so there will always be some level of customization based on, equity contribution, location, securitization that is available.
Okay. And then from Vincent, he said, what is the position of WEMA on the NHF product, National Housing Fund product? Okay,
Dr. Are you able to take that?
Yes, at this point, there's no relationship with that. That speaks to people who earn income in Nigeria and always requiring to submit their request to the mortgage bank, the Federal Mortgage Bank, Federal Mortgage Finance. So there's no relationship with that at this point in time.
Okay, thank you. And from McBrain International, do you have any property available now? If yes, where do you have them?
We will share some thoughts with you before we close the seminar. So that's a possibility. However, as much as practicable, it will be your decision to go ahead with a particular vendor. We can only point you to some that we know and we can vouch for. Thank you.
Okay, Angela asked if the recording of the presentation will be sent for everyone that has dropped their email addresses. For Abolaji Idowu, he says most people will not want a charge on their UK property. So what equity do we have to put down for you not to consider any UK equity?
I think that's part of the, okay, can I respond or do you want to take more questions?
Okay, please respond, sir.
Okay, I think that's part of the customization that I spoke to. This is not an off-the-shelf product. It's a specialist product. Trying to speak to the standard offer or the standard offering, it is a requirement depending on the amount of equity, maybe even location and type of property. It is possible for us to have, to make some exceptions to those conditions, as with any process, in the financial services. I think what is important here is understanding that a lot around this offer has to comply with some of the regulations as stipulated by the Central Bank of Nigeria. A lot of these things that we're putting as part of the offerings are not WEMA Bank stipulations. They are, in compliance with Central Bank of Nigeria regulations. But I think, one thing that is clear, I see another question, I think from Debbie Oyelade around the fact that the charge makes it less attractive. But I think the bigger conversation that we should be looking to have is around one of interest, and second, around which of these general requirements are acceptable and unacceptable to both parties, and then agreeing on whether and on what we can make exceptions on.
All right, thank you, CDO. And then I have a hand raised, Adedamola Adewoye. Please, let's have your question.
Please. Hello, good afternoon. Thank you so much for this. Please, I just want to ask, is this really practical for young people? Because a lot of young people are interested in buying properties in Nigeria, but I feel like the requirements are too much, because you're taking our property in the UK. You need us to have a 30% deposit. Then you need us to, the interest rate is even fluid. So is this something young people should consider, so we don't bother wasting our time if we know you're not going to approve the mortgage for us? So is this what we should consider? That's what I want to ask.
All right, thank you, Adedamola. CDO did, before you respond, I'll just take the last question from Dr. Adigun. What is the CBN support that's available for this kind of product? The Central Bank of Nigeria support available for this kind of product? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think the first question by Adedamola, the short answer is there are no age barriers to the product offering. There are prerequisites, and whether you are young, old, youthful, there are some conditions that we are bound to stick to. There are other ways that you may look to try and do this. I know that there are options of bridge loans, there's family and friends, but the point I think the right response to you is there are no age barriers around this. There are some requirements we just have to meet. So I wouldn't look at it from an age perspective. On CBN support, I wonder if Dr. Adigun is able to share a bit more light on that question. This will be a CBN regulated product, as that's all we can offer as a bank in Nigeria. But I'm a bit unclear around, the detail of that question around CBN support that is available. So if Mr. Adigun can, please go on.
While we wait for Dr. Adigun, I think the issue is at this point in time, there's no special intervention that we know from CBN for the mortgage space. There are a number of interventions that have been done by CBN within other industries, but again, the CBN has the responsibility and the whole attitude to come up with that. So once we have anything to do, or when we have any information around that, of course, it will be an added value to this entire discussion. Usually the intervention comes from the funding pool, which also now speaks to the interest rate. And definitely, if this comes up, it becomes a win-win situation for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay, I'll quickly take a question from Facebook. I think most of the questions on the platform have been answered here already. We have a question from Yingsfat. It says, can we engage our own sellers? Can we engage our own sellers? And back to the chat box here, I have a question from Buki Ogini. Can you tell us what is the rough estimated sum of a property in Nigeria within this requirement, estimated sum of property in Nigeria? And from Olu Salami, it says, the terms are too stringent. Mortgages are meant to make it easier to purchase properties. The prerequisite implies the bank is not willing to take any risk, yet they want the benefits. High interest rate. I think this, okay, CDO, DH, I'll leave the floor to you. These are the last
let me
questions
attempt to speak to that. Thank you, Toyi. Can you engage your own sellers? Short answer is yes, you can. We are offering you a mortgage product, not trying to sell you a property. We do have partnerships with property developers, if that is of interest, but like I spoke earlier, our offer to you is a mortgage lending. The value of properties, again, I would reference the offer. It's difficult for me to tell you the rough estimated sum of a property in Nigeria. It depends where you're looking and what sort of property you're looking for. So I will struggle. I'm unable to answer that. I just don't have the information to be able to answer. And with regards to Olusalami's questions around the terms, I think one thing that is important to speak to here is what we are trying to do, and maybe this helps you guys in diaspora to understand some of the challenges of living in Nigeria. What we're trying to do is simplify the process and make it more accessible to more. It's a journey and it's a marathon rather than a sprint. If we are starting from a point where the regulatory expected interest is a minimum of around 17%. Please don't quote me on that, but it's around that. It becomes more difficult and requires extensive creativity to be able to create products on top of that. So I think my short answer to you is what you see today is the first or stage X of attempting to be creative on the current rules and regulations. I expect that as we evolve with this, it will evolve to something that is more acceptable by many. We will never get to a stage where it's acceptable by all. This is where we are today. And as I speak to you, I can also say that there is no bank in Nigeria today that is able to do this at this point in time. We've all been trying to crack this problem for a while. And of course, like many things, there are a number of options. I think I also saw someone speaking to the fact that you might be able to get a loan in the UK to house in Nigeria. But the point is, this is where we are at this point.